3 minutes past 2 from the studios of Bola Ahmed Tinubu FM. Good afternoon and welcome to the maiden edition of this program. This program is called Agenda Setting. My name is Dwayne Daniels and this is the very first edition of the program. And the program is to set agenda for the incoming administration of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Today on the show, two people will be joining me. I'll be having two guests on the program today. And we'll be talking security, federalism, and decentralization of power. We'll also be talking about unity, which, of course, is very, very important, very, very essential at this point in time. But before I introduce my guest in the studio, I spoke with someone earlier, a security expert, Mr. Abu Adams, asking questions about some of the things that Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised in his manifesto. Let's quickly listen to that phone interview and then I come back to the studio to introduce my studio guest.
So I'm on the line with Mr. Abu Adams, a security expert. Mr. Abu Adams, there are some of going through the manifesto of the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there are some of the things that he mentioned I'd like to go over with you, since you're a security expert, and see how some of these things could work. One of the things that pops up from that manifesto under security is the recruitment of more people into the armed forces, and then recruitment, training, and then equipping them, and that this would not just the military, police, and all paramilitary agencies in fighting security. How can recruiting more people help in this instance?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I think we've said this over the years, and I'm happy that it's in the manifesto of the incoming government. We need personnel in the first place, not just general duties personnel, but specialized personnel to handle advanced equipment that's going to be used if we have to bring the current security challenge under control. I want to say that we know that we lack adequate technology to back up our security forces. If we are going to acquire them under this present administration, then we need to train people.
You can place your business and brand adverts on Adaba 88.9 FM online platforms, at Adaba FM TV, on YouTube, Adaba 88.9 FM on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. With an audience of over 60,000 people across all our social media platforms and a reach of over 315,000 overall. Call these numbers today to push your market before that audience. Kazim on 080-30414344 or Hazan on 080-650.
Training them without motivating them is not going to work.
I will get to that. I will get to that, because one of the things here is improvement of salaries and welfare. And one of the things that I see in the manifesto is putting in place a special program that provide housing, scholarships, stipends, and health insurance for the families of those who died in service.
Exactly. Thank you very much. You see, we will need to encourage the incoming government to do it. And not just that, I think we need to bring them, the kind of training that will make the citizens to see them as credible and organizations with integrity. We know the lapses. We have known of all the corruptions in the various other agencies. The incoming government must deal with it instantly and make sure that the people he's going to appoint this time are people that are responsible to him directly. He will not allow any intermediary between him and the forces. And he should have a mechanism of listening to the populace, how his security agencies are doing. That is what is going to help. Because if you look at, in advanced groups, if you go to US, for instance, and you get to the airport, if there are soldiers that want to fly, whether you have a first-class ticket, if the soldiers don't enter, you don't enter. That is respect, and that makes them to perform more. So we should make them to come to a level that the citizens will see their credibility to be something that they cannot compromise with. So Yes, motivate them with good salary, motivate them with welfare packages, prompt payment of. Look at some of the security forces agencies are still under these contributory pension, which is very cumbersome, and which make their take home, pay at the end of retirement very minimal, and so on and so forth. So he needs to look at them when he comes back. When he comes on board. I'm very sure. But let me add this. If I don't know, you are going to ask me. I think he should look at the police. He should look at the state police this time around and do everything he can, because it will relieve him. If the states can take responsibility of the initial security threat in their various governments, various states, by way of using their police, and the fear of political manipulation, Nigerians can deal with it, because if we leave it, there's no way we'll be matured to the level that we can practice it.
All right, Mr. Dam. One of the things that I see here is let me read it to you. Anti-terrorist battalions, highly trained and disciplined anti-terrorist battalions with special forces unit will be created. Now, there are so many units already within the Nigerian military. Do you see a need for another one to tackle bandits and kidnappers?
You see, the various units. What they are talking about is not by way, the various units can be converted to the level, because certainly they have gone to advanced countries and they have seen what their own special forces. If you take the U.S., they are their special SEAL, the kind of operation. Were we not here when somebody that was kidnapped in the Republic was rescued in our country? Those are the kind of things they're saying. And I am sure that if we can get to that level, even the kidnappers, terrorists will be discouraged from operating with the way they do now with free will. So it is not about going to bring a complete. You can make use of what you have now. The police have a counter-terrorism unit. How many of those counter-terrorism units are directly on the field? Some of them are even seen performing other duties, maybe outside counter-terrorism on the road and so on. So if he comes on board and he brings that unit, harmonize the various units into a force that can be, that can operate like their counterparts anywhere in the world. That would be fantastic. And again, backed up with training and technology. If you see the training of SEALs, I don't know whether you have ever
Navy SEALs, yes, American Navy SEAls.
Yes, if you give any Nigerian that kind of training and you back him up with his welfare, his motivation, and the equipment, and he will perform. These are the kind of things they should be doing when they come on board.
Okay, now another thing is international collaboration. How would you advise the government to go about this in fighting security? How would you advise the government to go about collaborating with other countries?
Let me even say, I don't want to advance countries yet. Let me take West African countries and other African countries where these terrorists are coming from. We need to work with them. We need to have intelligence coming from those places. The kind of bandits from the areas that are migrating into our area through heading and all the like. So it is an area that we must deal with. But if it comes to technology and training, we cannot but do to work, hand in hand with those that have perfected their research and training that is bringing practical results. Countries like Israel, US, and of course you can even go to the eastern part of the world, if it is China and all the like. Very, very important, because in security you can never be, just like in economy, you can never be an island unto yourself. So the intelligence, the technology that we'll acquire from there should be something that should be very useful to us.
Okay, another thing the manifesto touches on is securing the forest. And here in the manifesto, it talks about revitalizing ranger or forest guard force, giving them the core mandate to monitor, identify, and track the use of the forest by any violent or criminal groups. Do you have any advice in that regard? Because we have so many stories about how some of these terrorist groups always hide out in some of these forests.
Yes, you see, you can never monitor the forest adequately if you don't have technology that will give you information.
You're talking about area surveillance.
Yes, if you don't have that kind of technology that will be sitting in the comfort of your command and control post and see what is happening in the forest between Ondo and Osun State, the forest between Idori and the express road leading to Benin from Maure. If you don't have that kind of technology, do you just want them to be going to hunt like ordinary hunter? It won't work. So if they are ready to provide the technology that is required for the that is technology that you can see any forest in this country. You can see people in it. If there are arms there, you can see them. So let us go out to acquire them. Then have well-trained response team across the country. You have response team when there's attack, they can respond under 5-10 minutes. Because your ability to respond when there is attack is what can give you upper hand, and is what can give the citizens, the confidence in you. We should devise that training. We should provide. It's not something that is not doable, for goodness sake.
All right, Mr. Abu Adams, before I let you go, do you have any other advice? Do you have any other advice for the incoming administration?
Yes, I want to see the incoming administration to appoint people that are committed to the cause of Nigerians. I want to advise the coming government to make sure that every funding that the budget and allocate for security operations are used for that purpose. They should devise mechanism. Every welfare package for the both retired and serving officers who reach them, they should have a mechanism. That is how people have confidence in him. I have said before, we need this time around to have state police. Give the state the responsibility to be part of the security architecture. It's not to call them CSO that they have no any force that they can, and even the regional organization they created cannot be effective because they don't have adequate equipment. And generally, the citizen must come up to support the coming government, because we have reached a level that Nigeria cannot be worse than this in terms of security. So we must all work together to put the insecurity behind us.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Abu Adams.
Okay, that was Mr. Abu Adams, a security expert, speaking on some of the promises made by the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his manifesto. Let me introduce my studio guest now. I've been joined this afternoon on agenda setting by Mr. Zadok Agito. You're welcome on the program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dimeji. Thank you for having me.
And Comrade Gani Mohammed is also on the program. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Dimeji.
Okay, so like I said earlier at the beginning of the program, we'll be looking at security, federalism, and of course unity. We'll begin with security. Comrade Gani Mohammed, if you look at the manifesto of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one of the prescriptions that he made in tackling security in Nigeria is to recruit more people, not just into the military, but the paramilitary as well. How effective do you think this will go in curbing security in the country, especially without rooting out some of the allegations of corruption that people have made within the ranks of some of these military agencies? Surely you must have asked some of these allegations.
Yeah. To start with, is a financial to, as prescribed in the manifesto, is like decentralizing the whole system, but still putting them under a single commander-in-chief of armed forces. You see you see the introduction, you see the effects of introduction of Amotekun in the southwest of Nigeria. This has really helped improve the security situation. If we cannot speak for every other state, we live in Ondo State. We know how much this outfit has assisted in stemming criminalities in Ondo State. And that's the truth. Even the opposition will give it to the government of Ondo State that Amotekun has really done a very nice job. In Lagos, when people say the crime rate in Lagos is high, I quickly draw the attention to big cities like Lagos across the world.
Like New York.
Like New York, like Chicago, like the cities in the South Africa. You see, or you go to Mexico, the cities in Mexico, as policing as Tokyo in Japanese, you see the crime rate there. You go to places in Brazil, cities in the Lake of Lagos, you see the rate of crime. But what they achieve in Lagos in terms of stemming the criminality in Lagos is likely to locally organized security outfits. In northeast of Nigeria, the Borno in particular, you discover that this civilian GTF has really brought a new dimension, positive one, to the system out there. We have seen cases where police were kidnapped that the vigilante will be the one to go and rescue. What that explains to us is essentially that the security system must be local. It takes a man from Ajowa to help anybody kidnap around there because we know the roads. The youth in Ajoa community, they live, they work, they do hunting of games in those bushes there in our forest. So if they say one person has been stolen from a part of Ajoa today, the youth can always say, oh, if they don't follow this road, they must follow this.
You're talking state police. What I ask is, how will the recruitment of more people into military and paramilitary to curb insecurity?
Yeah, one, when you have more hands, you look at the size of Nigeria. We are talking about over 200 million or thereabout. That's the statistic we are playing with.
Estimate.
Yeah, estimate we are playing with currently. Even at the official quotas, they say 200 million or thereabout. And you are looking at an army that is less than 400,000. And you are looking at police that is less than that. The entire policing system. When I say policing system now, I include the armed forces into it, in quotes. Taking care, less than 1 million, taking care of 200 million people. You'll be shocked that once, even in developed states or countries or advanced countries, they say the system works there because they know that people will be punished for every crime once they are caught. Even if you commit a crime, they will trace the criminal and they will pick him. Except the daredevil one who has resigned to the consequences of his crime, that I will do this, let them come and catch me. But in Nigeria, you know that if you commit crime in this place, the tendency to even see the nearest police station or the army post or the military post, you have to travel some 20-30 kilometers. So no, before they can even invite the army, we are in state capital now. Before they can even invite army, it will take some 30 minutes. And the criminal can perpetrate whatever he intends to do within 20 minutes and run away. But when we have large number, there will be more capacity to cover wider areas. And that will, in effect, to mark you. For now, the majority of our boys going into military. One young person still told me recently that he has finished school, he has no job. If I see any uniform job that I should please assist him. The person just told me yesterday, if I can see any military uniform job, I will appreciate it, that he had no job. The implication is that some of these criminals, largely it is the youth population that are into crime more because of the energy, because of want of what to do. When there is no job, when they are not doing anything, the tendency, the propensity to steal, to commit crime will be higher. But a young man who wakes up in the morning, he has a job to do, like military, like armed forces. If they recruit more, they will be more engaged. Because there are even reasons to engage more, to hire more, so that they can be doing something. Somebody who is doing something who has become productive, and the propensity for him to go and commit crime will have been reduced. It will save. That is a kinetic way of sorting criminality or insecurity
through creation of employment.
Employment. You create employment. You once they are engaged, they will move away from crime or criminality. So recruiting more would definitely assist our system. No doubt about that.
Okay, because of our time, Zadok, I've lived in military barracks before, and one of the things that I have witnessed is when a soldier dies, you see how the family is ejected from the barrack and all of that. If you go through this manifesto, one of the things that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is promising is putting in place a special program where housing, scholarships, stipends, and all whatnot will be provided for families of fallen heroes. What do you think about this kind of program?
I think it's important, and it's something that if we can achieve it, would be quite commendable. But I don't want the incoming president to restrict it to the military. I think that the minimum standard of living of any Nigerian, irrespective of whether you are in the military or you are in the civilian system, must be such that you are happy to be a Nigerian. I remember growing up, we used to have this MAMSA program that they call Operation Housing for All by the year 2000. It's 23 years after the year 2000, and we've not gotten that. We've not achieved that. There used to be DFRE, Department for Road and Road Maintenance, Rural Road Maintenance and Infrastructure, something like that. We have not achieved that. But if we can have a government that can come in and be consistent about its policies, whether to aiding the military, giving our very committed soldiers a sense of commitment, a sense of greater commitment to the Nigerian state, that would be commendable. I think beyond that, for the security issues in Nigeria, is for us to get citizens to become responsible for their roles as citizens within Nigeria. If a citizen does not have a reason to go into criminality, then there will be less need for policing and for harming our security agencies. And so that means that we must deliberately target reducing insecurity by providing opportunities for our teeming generation. Young people must have jobs. If they can't have jobs, they must have opportunities to do something that can at least anchor them in hope, pending when they achieve what they are looking for. And I remember a policy of government, I think it was under Goodluck Jonathan, and I'm not being political here. I think it was under Goodluck Jonathan where money was made available to support the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And so
yes,
we can comfortably say that the great exploit of that industry right now is because government at a particular time invested in it. If the incoming president can look at getting investment for small and medium scale enterprises, particularly in the technology sector and also in entertainment. Entertainment, because it's a quick fix.
Yes.
People can get to their destination in a shorter period of time. If you look at most of the musicians we have now, some of them have become global stars in less than 5 years. And so we can get as many Nigerians as possible into that. Then the second thing is in sports. We need to do sports development. We need to do it on a large scale because long term, during the periods when young Nigerians become teenagers, that's mid-period between childhood and adulthood, there's a need to engage them. And one of the best ways to engage them is to physically engage them in sports. Because while you are doing sports, which is fun, you also do get an opportunity to make it professional and earn money.
And so it's good for your health as well.
It is good for your health. If you look at the American economy, which we always benchmark ourselves against, you will see that there's a deliberateness about how they approach issues of national development. Everywhere they don't allow layouts, for instance, in their society. What they do is that they create specific housing estates, so that in those estates there are minimum standards that you must apply. There must be a sports facility. There must be proximity to a trading center like a shopping mall and things like that. What that does is that within and there must be schools. So that within your neighborhood, you don't have to move too far to get access to education. You don't have to move too far to get access to recreation sports facilities. Because what that does is that it also removes or limits your need to transit longer distances within town, which puts less pressure on the transport sector, which puts less pressure on security itself, because you can move away from where you are And when you come to a place where you are more a stranger, there's a greater likelihood of you being more willing to commit a crime than if you live in a place where they know you. So all these things, if we put it together, and then not think that there's going to be a short-term, quick fix solution to Nigeria's problems. Everybody, the president must communicate effectively always to citizens, so that you don't give citizens false hopes that makes them begin to think that once the president comes in 2 years, in 3 years,
how do you think people have always said that Nigerians have a short memory? How do you think Nigerians can hold Bola Ahmed Tinubu to this manifesto?
I think he has given a manifesto.
It's a written document. Yes.
And so the advantage is that a written document. But unfortunately, when we have written documents, there are no timelines. And some of the great...
we know he has 4 years.
Yes, and he has
a
minimum of 4 years. But unfortunately, some of these things are not achievable
within 4 years.
Within 4 years. But there must be a timeline. There must be a projection.
A process.
And it must be inheritable. That is, in the event that he leaves government, either in 4 years or 8 years or after, whosoever is coming in must find the policies within this document, one that you want to adopt and you want to raise. And so there must be continuity in national policies. And for me as a person, I think that citizens should be more engaged by asking more critical questions of whosoever is in power. Activism is not necessarily about constantly opposing and insulting. Activism should be about engaging, critical questions.
Holding people to their promises.
Yes, to their promises, and being willing to help them to get those promises achieved. Because he's a president, he has promised that he's going to do ABC, does not mean that those things will be achievable in his backyard.
Let me talking about young people. From what you've seen so far, Zadok, would you say that Nigerian young people organize more than they agonize, or they agonize more than they organize?
I think we agonize more than we organize. And although its organization is improving, but there's something that is critical, and we mustn't always just blame them. There's a cultural gap. There's the missing link in our culture. In every society, it's the older people that hand over power and the sustenance of any present generation to those ones who are behind them, who will then hold
the successor generation.
So there's this succession pattern. Unfortunately, within our space here, there's no deliberateness about creating structures for succession. So a lot of the young people have had to learn on their own. And that's why you find that young people, when you are trying to reason with them, oftentimes
it's always very difficult.
Then the misfortune of having a students' organization that has largely been led by the intellectually inept. The NANS organization, for instance, has not been able to move away from its beggar status of patronage with government. And so they have not led. And that's the link that we keep saying is wrong. Because you find people that are supposed to already be in leadership still holding on to this mentality that student unionism is about engaging and fighting. It's not about engaging. It's about showing the way. It's about leading the elders, and while also leading the younger ones at the same time. So if
providing alternative solutions.
Intellectual alternatives to whatever is there. That's why I said earlier that there's a cultural gap. There's a place that is missing in every culture, either in Igbo land, in Hausa land, in Yoruba land, in Efik land. There is this gap between the elite, the older elite, and the younger ones coming in. That's why you find young people coming into leadership now who don't even understand the environment they are playing in. They can't engage. They are not sensitive. They don't have that emotional intelligence to be able to gauge the environment. A Yoruba man coming to lead in a Yoruba environment must be absolutely Yoruba. You know why I said that? And I'm not saying that politically. I'm saying that because
we'll get to that part.
The environment you are playing, you must know the body signs. The language is the Yoruba. Their language is on their own with their body.
All right. Let me turn to Comrade Gani Mohammed. What do you think is the most important move that Bola Ahmed Tinubu should make as soon as he is elected? I'm talking about insecurity now.
Yeah. We number one, he must rebuild confidence in the military.
What about the paramilitary, like the police?
Yeah, call it paramilitary, call it but the essential one, the first and foremost, should be the military, the armed forces. Nigerians no longer trust or believe in our armed forces solving the insecurity issue, because it's beyond, the insecurity in Nigeria is beyond the regular policing issue. It has gone to a state that we know that these the militia camps, or these are militia camps of these criminals. And once it has gotten to that, you can liken it to the drug cartels in Mexico that will acquire bomber jets, all manner of jets, tanks, and all of that. They maintain what the regular governments have as a military. And our own is edging towards that. You get to this, you see the weapons. Sometimes the complaints here are that even the insurgents or the bandits are better armed than our regular soldiers or army. And you hear from this the regular rumor mill and all of that the military ranks are assisting them in one way or the other. We have been hearing this. First and foremost, the new president must be able to restore confidence in the military, because the army or the armed forces had always been the last hope of Nigeria as a nation. Even when the civilians were not doing up to expectation in the past, Nigerians developed this sympathy or confidence in the military system, to the extent that say, I would prefer military. They would prefer military to come. I mean, in the past. So that was when Nigeria trusted the system. There must be this new trust in the military that a Fulani soldier will be seen as Nigerian soldier. A Yoruba soldier or Igbo soldier will be seen as Nigerian soldier, no longer Igbo soldier or Yoruba soldier or Fulani soldier.
Beyond you rebuilding trust, because of our time,
all right.
Beyond rebuilding trust, the trust of Nigerians in the military and paramilitary agencies, you mentioned earlier the dynamics of the problem of insecurity that we face in Nigeria. What about justice? What about ensuring justice? What about ensuring equity? What about employment creation, like you said? Because
the combination
it appears multi-dimensional.
Except you are going to the operational details of how they will rebuild the confidence. But the first thing is that the president must appreciate the fact that there is an issue. It is only in a system where there is no trust. That is when the citizens will be calling for the chief of staff must come from my community. The chief of air staff must come from so community. It is because they no longer trust the chief of army staff or the commander-in-chief the garrison commander in their area, that no, if it were to be an Igbo officer, he would have treated differently. If it were to be Yoruba soldier, the content of his actions would have been different from what they.
Do you not agree that lack of justice, lack of equity, lack of even distribution of resources led to this in the first instance? This distrust.
Yeah.
Where people would prefer
Let me tell you, I think
they consider their
it
wrong.
is about awareness. It has been like that. The awareness is higher now. Let me give you an instance. In Nigeria's system, when the colonial leaders were living, there were no military formations or armed depots in the entire South. You see Zaria Army Depot, the 1st Mechanized Division in Kaduna, you see Air Force Base, everything up there. Nobody was complaining about that. But when that generation of people had gone, the new generation, like Sadok said, that there was a gap, the generation gap. This generation gap has created a new thinking among the new generation, different from the tradition we met. It is now that you see that a general from a so region is favoring this. You see in the last few years that we keep complaining about who is the chief of army staff. They keep appointing from a particular region of the country. When you look at the list of the former chief of army staff, because in Nigeria, chief of army staff is about, in quote, about most powerful
They're like the de facto vice president after the president. It's like the de facto, the next person to the president.
Exactly. Now, and they keep appointing them from a section of the country. But this pattern has taken a very frightening dimension. You see, the last time we have a chief of army staff from the southern part of the country was when a southerner was the president. That was Jonathan, when he appointed General Minima as the chief of army staff. Immediately, Jonathan left. Nobody from the southern part of the country has been so appointed. And there are senior and qualified soldiers from the southern part of this country. If we can overtake that, if the new president can resolve this type of you call it injustice to them, but it creates suspicion that why are they picking, change the security architecture of Nigeria so that we can get some respite in the insecurity challenge in the country. There was no change. When they will change, it will still follow the same pattern. And the change Nigerians, particularly the loudest Nigerians, are asking for is to change it from a particular tribal setting to another one. And they will tell you that even the posting they do to the hottest part of the insurgents are drawn from other ethnic groups because the structure of the army. These are issues that the new president must look into. Then you now discuss it from justice or injustice and the rest of it.
Okay, Comrade Gani Mohammed, if you look at this last election, talking about the presidential and the National Assembly elections, including the state elections, governorship and House of Assembly elections, you will agree with me that it appears that the elections brought out the fault lines of our nationhood. The more, how do we proceed?
Yeah, number one, there must be reconciliation. There must be apologies, but more importantly, the buck stops on the table of the new president. Yeah, some of us felt some other candidates who lost the election overdid it. They actually brought in these the religious ethnicity and all of that. But since they lost the election, we'll still have to thank God. So we now have to move from that region to the street, to the sections of those countries. Particularly when you look at it, I understand that the church play a significant role in this issue. And we can go back to the church and let them understand that this will not help our system. The ethnicity thing that they brought to the politics should be resolved. Look at Lagos now. You will conclude that election has been concluded, or at least a candidate has emerged in Lagos. But I have my fear. I have this premonition that we still need to step up security in Lagos.
It's like peppering over the cracks.
Yeah. We still need to step up security in Lagos because the whole team might not have died if we do not kill the possibility of escalation of crisis over the election. Yesterday there was this rumor that Alaba Market was to be touched.
Yes.
And if Alaba Market is touched or was touched as alleged, you know what will go into it. Alaba Market is a multi-billion naira market and largely owned by a section of the country. And once that happens, you then break the last fragment of a unity or the traces of our pretext to unity or love or corporate entity, because that has not even been done. It is the political power they are talking about. When you now take them away from what they think it is the
economic power,
which they think is the only thing they are holding on to in the corporate community called Nigeria, then it's like pushing them to the wall. And this, it is only, it was not this difficult, it was not this hard. I was not there then, but we read, we could gauge, we could see the feeling in the events leading to civil war in 1967. That was not as tight as this, because they had hope. They had a big boy there in person of Juku. They were the head of this, they were the head of that. They were
in the civil service.
They were in the civil service, they were in the education, they were in the judiciary. They were everywhere. And they were still there when they felt it was not enough. And they went for the big apple, and the thing busted and led to civil war. Okay. Now they have been pushed to wall. And I call on the president-elect to initiate a reconciliatory stuff like what Gowon did immediately after the Civil War, the TRRR. That's the way I think we can go now. Reconciliation. Because if we don't even assure people, if we don't even assure the sections of this country that we could do it, that the president-elect can do it, the mistrust is already there, and the last presidential election further widened it. And the crack is open, is so bold now that we know that I pray the president can.
All right, Comrade Gani Mohammed. Zadok, Lagos has always been known to be cosmopolitan, but it appears that the expression that Lagos is no man's land triggered a lot of Yoruba people who felt that was insulting. What advice would you offer the various inclinations in Lagos State?
I think there's no way to answer this without going back into history.
Okay.
I think citizens must understand that when somebody says Lagos is no man's land, there's a portion of Lagos that actually qualifies to be called no man's land. And that's the Lagos colony under the colonizing agents of Britain, which was where a lot of slaves that were repatriated from various countries were brought after they were dropped in Sierra Leone and in Liberia. Some of them also came back to Lagos and were settled in the Lagos colony. The Lagos colony is that island, that small place in the waterline called Lagos Island. And so that place is actually, historically can be classified as no man's land. The other part of Lagos, that's the Lagos by edict, the Lagos by law, was created as a product of a military rule. When the Western region at that time was developing Lagos into a business hub, where you found the development of places like Ikeja and other industrial sites around Lagos. When the military came in, they annexed all of that place, largely from lands belonging to the Egun people in the Badagry axis.
Awori people.
The Awori people, the Egba people, the
Ijebu people, places like Ikorodu.
Which also extends into the Ekpe axis. And so they took all that land and merged it and created a state. So when people say Lagos is no man's land, I think it's because they don't understand history. They must define what they mean by no man's land. There's the Lagos, the colony, then there's the Lagos, the state. The Lagos, the state is not no man's land. There are people that are there. Now, that said, I think one of the things we've made a mistake with is to not also understand the history of migration. Most people that are Lagosians at this time, a lot of people that we assume to be Yorubas in Yoruba land at this time are also second and third generation migrants, people who came from places as far as Nupe, Niger, and places like that, Fulanis. If you go to the Oyigbo, Idiaraba axis and to Agege, you find a lot of Yoruba people there who are Yorubas but of northern ancestry. And validly so, because the Yoruba concept is now beyond the ethnic tribes. It is now a concept that can only be equaled with something called America, where you have different ethnicities, different countries and nationalities coming together and saying that we are Americans. That's why you go to America, you find a Chinese man. And you ask him, where are you from? He says, I'm from Delaware. Are there Chinese aboriginally in Delaware? No. But he has come there. One of the things you find them doing is that they hold the country of their birth, the place of their birth, above the place of their ancestry. So there are conflicts in Lagos that we can't deal with except we talk about the culture, the history of that place. There are Igbos that have also settled. There are other Yorubas that have also settled. And I said, when I was studying some of the reasons for this conflict, I discovered that some of the Yorubas that came into the western region at that time bought lands and created their own places. They bought lands, huge parcels of land for farming purposes because they were farmers. The Igbos were traders. They were not farmers. So they were not coming into Lagos to buy huge portions of land that would rightfully now be classified as theirs, where they were farming, which they could have, given over to their children and to their children's children and the generation of people that will validly say we are Lagosians. The Igbos came closer to the economic hubs. That's why you find them only massively displaced around and close to the economic hubs. The Apapa, the Ajeromi Felodun axis, where they are predominantly there because that goes closer to the border, closer to the ports, because they were traders. Now, while the other Yorubas have become Lagosians, because, they are Yorubas, but they've also migrated from Kwara, from Oshun. You find everybody in Lagos has a home somewhere else. The Igbos, the error, and if I may say the error, was that in those days, they didn't buy land to farm. They rented houses to trade, which is different, in that the ones that bought land rightfully can claim ownership. The ones that rented and then later began to buy houses and properties would only always be classified. Otherwise, if like 50, 60 years ago, we had Igbos coming into Lagos to buy land, we would not have this issue of ethnicity because everybody, their children, the third generation of their children now, will be Lagosians by ancestry because they have land. Which is why you find people in several places in Lagos that say that they are Lagosians, but they are really not Lagosians. If you are not of these four ethnic stocks, if you are not Egun, if you are not Egba, if you are not Ijebu or Awori, you can't rightfully say that you are a Lagosian by origin. But because it is part of the western region, every one of us is included. That's why I, as a Yoruba man, of whatever ethnic stock I may be, can live in Lagos. Now, the challenge with Lagos is the lack of conversation. The people that came in that are of Yoruba stock understand the nuances of the Yoruba people. The Yorubas will say, tí àpọ́nlé bá ti ń kọjá handshake, tó bá ti ń débi elbow, ó ti ń di nǹkan míì. The Yorubas have a culture that everybody who comes inside that place must learn to understand. Everybody has the right of prospering. But the Yorubas will say, Okokije Baba Tomokoma Lala.
Yes.
They have a reason. Everybody is included, but there are limits. Everybody must understand, whether you are Hausa, you are Igbo, whatever your stock, whatever your lineage, wherever you are coming from. When you live in Lagos, you must understand that there are certain things that are put on the table, which is that you don't discriminate. Everybody must strive. But when one person begins to, misbalance that's equilibrium that makes the place tick, you begin to find conflict. And that's why the issues that are happening in Lagos, very regrettable, because I'm a Lagosian. Regrettable to say the least. Those issues don't need to be there, except that we are disrespecting ourselves and it is causing violence. We are no longer acknowledging the fact that we are all Lagosians. When I was living in Lagos, I attended the Jakonde school in Ilupeju Axis, Oshodi to be precise, Ilupeju Grammar School. Virtually everybody in that school was from every part of Nigeria. You had Igbos, Hausas, nobody related with each other based on your tribe. And I keep saying, any Lagosian, whether you are Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, wherever you are from, that has been discriminated against in Lagos based on tribe, can then have a reason to talk and say that Lagos is unjust. Outside of that, we should all agree together to create a place where there can be peace. It doesn't matter who the president is. What matters is that there will be presidents, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, wherever the time comes, but we must always remain Lagosians at all times.
I have a contrary opinion about that concerning. Yeah, because of our time, I'll keep it short. One, Lagos did not fall from heaven. Lagos is a Yoruba land. Call it Awori, call it Egun.
All these people are Yoruba people.
These are
ethnic
Yoruba
groups within the Yoruba tribe.
They are just like you are discussing Akoko in Yoruba land, Ekiti in Yoruba land. You are discussing Ijesha in Yoruba land. Awori are Yorubas. Egun are Yorubas. The Jebus in Lagos are Yorubas.
Definitely not contested.
Yeah.
And it's not an issue.
Okay. The issue here is simply this. Either you are from Ogun State, you are from wherever within Yoruba land, you are a Yoruba person.
In Yoruba land.
In Yoruba land. But when somebody moves from Kano to Lagos to say that because his great grandfather settled in Lagos,
you're saying from another tribe,
yeah,
with a distinct language,
yeah, you raise issue. For instance, Muchin is a community. It did not happen overnight. Ikorodu did not happen overnight. Ikeja did not happen overnight. They were never created by colonial masters.
They were part of the Western region.
I'm coming. Even before Western region, let me tell you this. Before they brought the slave settler into Lagos Island had been there. It was created by a sojourner, an expansionist from Ife, who was later defeated by another expansionist from Benin.
From Benin, yeah.
Benin and people of Ilefe are from the same parenthood. They have the same father. I have a video where the current Oba of Benin said that Oromiyan was their grandfather.
Yeah, it was in Ife at some point.
He said, excuse me, I have the video, I'm coming. He said Oromiyan was their grandfather. And the first Oba of Benin was a son of Oromiyan. He said they call it a radere or cladere. That's what they call Oromiyan in Benin. That's Oba of Benin. I have the video here where I'm sitting.
That's not the
I'm
issue.
coming.
Just a minute.
I'm coming. Now, if a Yoruba man from Ife moved to Lagos, established Lagos Island, another grandson of Yoruba from Ife who had established Benin, went there, I'll stage him in a military arrangement and convert it to a military barracks where, because it's a water region, it remains a Yoruba land. But when somebody who does not belong to any of these two is coming to this place, remain a stranger, and he must capture it by military might or by using poison, like Americans use against some Aboriginal in US. When the European came to America, they met Aborigines like the Indians and some other Cherokee people and all of that. And they poisoned some, they killed some. If you didn't come to Lagos by military might, you are not the grandson of Yoruba who took it in the name of being a Benin person or a Benin prince or Benin kingdom, who took Lagos, still took land from his cousin from Ife. Now the British who came used military might to take Lagos too. And after some time, they left. They never claimed to be, British never claimed to be. When you see a Briton in Lagos, he will never tell you he is a Lagos has no owner. So the crisis started when somebody from the east now says that Lagos has no owner. Look at it during the Civil War. They pack all their baggages and ran away. During this, where did they run to? They ran to their own land. They didn't stay there because they know that is not their land. They ran away. It was after the war that they came back and started settling again, facing their businesses. If they have bought land, like Sadok has said, they will still remain what they are. History is not made in a day. The Oshodis in Lagos are no pace. But the fact is this: it is not a story of 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. It's longer than that. And you see that even when you go to the mythology of Yoruba, you see Shango. Shango.
His mother was from Nupe.
Yeah. And you see this. Then when you look deeper, there is a tribe in Benue State that they are what's the man that created that?
Mohammed, I'm afraid time is passing. Is that okay?
Sorry.
I think
getting some words before we.
Yeah, I think it is important for the purposes of our current history as Nigerians to realize that whether you are Igbo, you are Hausa, you are Yoruba, Lagos is a special place. And in Lagos State, I've been here for a long time as a Yoruba man living in Yoruba land in Ondo State.
10 seconds.
I can't disrespect the Ondo people when it comes to their culture. I understand it because I'm Yoruba. Strangers don't understand the Yoruba, and it's important that everybody who migrates to Lagos tries to understand the Yoruba. The Yorubas live in peace with everybody.
Sure.
But you need to understand them. That's why they have so many things in their proverbs, in their culture, that teaches you how they will ride that lane. They can be tolerant, but they can also be intolerant when time comes.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Gani Mohammed. Thank you for coming on to this edition of Agenda Setting, the very first edition of the program. Thank you, Mrs. Zadok Akintoye, for coming on the program. My name is Major Daniels, and we apologize we could not touch on federalism. We'll do that. We'll do federalism and women empowerment next week. Thank you very much. My name is Major Daniels. Good afternoon.